Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Milton Goldstein. I'm with the Hennepin County Library Board. On behalf of the board, I'd like to welcome you all here to Robert H. Rohlf first annual retirement party. Well, that really isn't a joke. He just happens to be quitting one job. But Bob has more ideas, he has more plans, more visions, and more ambitions than a brand new MBA just getting out of school. He's going to be busy and busy, and matter of fact, I asked him when he would take a vacation as well. We have to wait. Anyhow, I am not one of the old timers who's known Bob for many years, the way many of you have. I met Bob 4 years ago when I was appointed to the board, and I've worked with him these 4 years. And I said this last night at our board meeting, and I'll repeat it. Working with Bob has been a real learning experience for me. It's something that I've learned an awful lot. I've gained an awful lot. He's a wonderful teacher, never too busy to answer my questions, never too busy to meet, and I really appreciate that. And he is leaving. We wish him the best, but I'm sure, as I say, he's going to have a full life. Now, if you'd like to step up here, Bob. We have a proclamation here, and it says, whereas Robert H. Rohlf has served as Hennepin County Library Director with distinction, dedication, and professionalism continually since September 1st, 1969, and whereas Robert H. Rohlf has directed Hennepin County Library to national prominence as one of the most highly used library systems in the country, with strong commitment to outstanding public service, and whereas a Hennepin County Library Director, Robert H. Rohlf, you have a middle name. What does H stand for? Henry, okay. Has overseen dramatic growth in Hennepin County Library use from 2.3 million annual circulation in 1969 to more than 9 million annual circulation, and has been responsible for the planning and construction of 15 new county libraries, several of which have won state and national awards. And whereas, throughout his career, Robert H. Rohlf has represented Hennepin County Library with honor, diligence, and foresight on numerous local, state, and national organizations, including the Minnesota Humanities Commission, Citizens League Committee, MELSA, Minnesota Library Association, Public Library Association, American Library Association, and whereas Hennepin County Library Director Robert H. Rohlf has been an eloquent spokesman and ardent advocate for libraries and the needs of the people of suburban Hennepin County, lobbying successful to ensure full, free, and equal access to library services for all. And whereas, as Hennepin County Library Director Robert H. Rohlf has worked with 36 library board members, effectively providing guidance to them and fostering their individual strengths for the betterment of Hennepin County Library services. And whereas, we're coming to the end. It's okay. And whereas, as Hennepin County Library Director, Robert H. Rohlf developed a positive work environment for library employees, honoring the dignity and potential of all who worked in this organization. And whereas Robert H. Rohlf will retire as Hennepin County Library Director, effective January 28, 1994, therefore be it resolved that the Hennepin County Library Board hereby expresses its sincere admiration and appreciation to Robert H. Rohlf for his almost 25 years of service to Hennepin County Library. And be it further resolved that the Hennepin County Library Board extends its warmest wishes to Robert H. Rohlf for a long and healthy retirement and wishes him great success in all the future endeavors. Signed, Colleen Short, Patty Baskin, Patrick Shannon, Jack Cole, Gordy Tolberg, Louise Riley, and Milton Goldstein.
Thank you.
We will have a chance to ask questions. as we have a group of distinguished speakers. Many of these people have known Bob since he's been here, and they all want to say something. The first speaker we will have will be Sheriff Don Omot, who will be retiring from 28 years of service at the end of 1994. 4 times he's been elected to a 7-year term as Hennepin County Sheriff, and he asked if he could say a few words. Sheriff Omot.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, and it's really 7 4-year terms. Be that as it may, I am here on official business. Service can be made on Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays. You all know of our county-wide warrant application and how it works. And Bob, you're really not out of the woods yet. And even though you have a series of little retirement parties to go, I don't know how he rates so well to have so many parties for him. If I don't catch him tonight, I don't want to embarrass him. I will catch him perhaps at the other one that's coming up. This is one of the warrants here, and let me just begin by, however, on a more serious note, by saying that Bob Rohlf is my kind of a guy. He's strong-willed, he's determined, he's very, very intelligent, and he makes things happen. And that is so evident by what we've seen during the time that he has served as the library director for Hennepin County. I have used the library system extensively. I'm somewhat of an amateur historian, and I've made great use of that library, as have the members of my family. And also, as I've traveled throughout the United States representing our National Sheriff's Association, I always make a point of going to the local library in connection with some of the history and research I'm doing to see what materials they have and so forth. And there isn't a library in this country that compare with what we have here in Hennepin County, and that is a tribute to Bob's determination and his diligence to work and his strong-willed features that just have made him an outstanding library director. So Bob, we want to wish you well in your retirement. We know you're just going to slow down for a moment, and then tomorrow you'll be on to something new. He only has one problem, that's in connection with the warrants that are outstanding. And some years ago, 25 years ago perhaps, a pattern was noted about an automobile coming into the Hennepin County every day at a rather rapid rate of speed on 35W. And the deputies told me about it, and they had checked it out, and it was a county automobile. And in further checking, it was determined that it was the library director. And it was also determined that it was on a Tuesday. And that, of course, it didn't take us long to figure that he was headed for the county board meetings, and that he was always running late. And so the deputies asked me what they should do about it, him being a county official, and I said, well, you can do as you want. You can tag him and teach him a good lesson, or you can ride his bumper 2 or 3 times on those Tuesdays when he's coming in, and he'll learn how to drive through the rear view mirror, and he'll learn how to slow down. Well, that's the lesson that the deputies rode his bumper for a bit. He did slow down. He may have been late for the county board meetings, but we never had to do anything other than make that kind of a impression upon Bob. So there are other warrants can wait, Bob, but in the meantime, something that he has coveted and has not been able to obtain, and so I wait until this last day. And Bob, if you just step up here, I'd just like to present this to you. Bob, it's my pleasure on behalf of the Hennepin County Sheriff's Office, its administration, to at this time present to you this certificate awarding you the position of honorary deputy in and for Hennepin County with all its rights. And we'll void the tickets.
Thank you, Sheriff Omot.
Should I keep that in the back seat of the car? Put the spotlight on.
The next speaker is one of the old timers. Thomas Olson, former Hennepin County Commissioner. Tom? Tom was one of the commissioners on a 5-member Hennepin County board who approved the hiring of Bob Rohlf. And I think Mr. Olson's good judgment and foresight is evident today in the wonderful library system that we enjoy. As County Commissioner, Tom Olson was an ardent supporter of the library and its staff. He was actively involved in selection of architects, approval of contracts, and the groundbreakings during those incredible busy years with library constructions in the early and mid-70s. Mr. Olson.
As a true MC, he neglected to mention it was the approval on a 3-2 vote, but at any rate, just a little bit of history for those who aren't quite as ancient as I. In 1967, the state passed legislation enabling us to set up the mechanics and the legal wherewithal to develop the Hennepin County Library System. At that time, Helen Young was director. And subsequent to that, in 1968-69, Stan called with advice from Jimmy Dore, who had recommended that he seek out this young man, Robert Rohlf, who was then with the American Library of Congress, that he might be a perfect person to be the leader into this gigantic quantum leap required. And so Stan Cowell was forced to travel to Washington to meet Bob. And of course, I think this was the beginning of Stan Cowell's deterioration, because from that moment forward, he was never in town. So Stan and Bob was a tough sell. Bob did not say yes. I think one of the reasons was he was reluctant to return to Minnesota. But Stan pursued him at ALA meetings and other meetings, and finally Bob relented and accepted the appointment, and Stan came back to us with the good news. The thing that I've liked has already been said and will be said by others, but the quality that Bob brought to Hennepin County was the quality of farsightedness, of leadership, of being able to take the concept of what was required and then bring it about. A lot of us can conceptualize, but few can carry it through to the dramatic and successful conclusion, and that is the commendation I'd like to place at your feet. It's been a wonderful time. Bob, at the same time with the library system was expanding physically, we were of course building the government center and the hospital, and he and I and others were accused of having an edifice complex. I tried that last time and it didn't get anywhere. So, the thing I like about this is Bob is not retiring. We all know that. What Bob has been doing very quietly, and not so quietly on occasion, has been doing some important consulting across the nation and across the world. And the wonderful thing about it now is, having freed himself of the day-to-day responsibilities in Hennepin County, he's going to be able to go to different places. I mean, if you look through his resume, he's gone to such romantic places as Duluth, Fairbanks, Huntsville, Iowa City, La Crosse, Wichita, and Schenectady. Now, what kind of a resume does that make? So, but now that he has the time free, he's going to be able to go to California, Washington, and Alexandria. That's Egypt, not Minnesota. Bob, thank you very much for years of service, and have a wonderful new career.
Thank you, Mr. Olson. Our next speaker is going to be one of the new kids on the block, Mr. James Bory, Hennepin County Administrator. Jim Bory has been Hennepin County's energetic new county administrator since his appointment in June 1993. During that time, along with many other tasks, he has restructured county government, prepared the 1994 county budget, and made it a priority to meet the county employees through a series of brown bag lunches. Mr. Bory understands libraries and their value and strongly supports them, for which we are truly grateful. Mr. Bory.
Well, good evening. I don't really feel worthy of being up here and making remarks about Bob, since others have known him so long and he has had such a long history of contribution to Hennepin County. And in fact, we've recruited a number of people to the county and been successful in talking them into coming here and working for us. And to that extent, Bob represents somewhat of a failure for me, because the first 3 to 4 months I spent time trying to talk him out of retiring. And as you know, I wasn't successful in doing that. But he leaves behind him a library system in outstanding condition, an outstanding shape and reputation across the country, and I know that you all know that. That has been instrumental in attracting a wonderful list of candidates to try to fill his shoes. I say try because I know it's a very daunting task for those, but we really had a tremendous list of applications and applicants for the position. And I have to tell you a little story. Bob knows the profession and those professionals in it so very well, it's amazing. We had a list of the 17 top finalists for the library director position. And I sat down with Bob. I thought he'd reviewed the applications, but he came in and sat down, and all he had was a list of the people. And we sat down and had a conversation about every single one of them, and he knew personally 15 of the 17 and knew where they were from, where they had been previously, how long they were there, where they got their degrees from. It was really truly amazing, and he provided a tremendous assistance for me in that process of selection. So thank you very much, Bob. Thank you for your contributions. You're a classy guy, and we all know that, and we appreciate that.
Thank you, Mr. Borey. The next speaker is going to be Mr. Scott Benton, currently the president of the Library Foundation of Hennepin County. Scott is a longtime avid library user. From 1982 until 1986, he served on the Hennepin County Library Board, including a term as vice president. A visionary leader, he was one of the incorporators who established the Library Foundation of Hennepin County in June 1986. He's a charter member of the Foundation's Board of Directors, and for the past year has been serving as president of this foundation. Mr. Benton.
Thank you, Milt. The Library Foundation has a lot to be grateful for where Bob Rohlf is concerned. Before there was a foundation, he was one of the key players in getting members of the Library Board to consider putting together a foundation for the long-term benefit of the library itself. He not only was helpful in counsel to us, but also in the broad gauge support we needed to get through all the terrible growing pain years. And as we have now become, I think, firmly established as an ongoing partner of the Library Board, we know that we owed Bob a great debt of gratitude. We also have reason to thank him because he directed some of the cash gifts that came in the honor of his occasion, retirement, towards the foundation. And Bob, if you could arrange to do this every year, I think we could cut a deal. Because so far it's amounting up to about $3,000. So there are a lot of generous folks here who care about you and care about the foundation. The other day we decided what would be a suitable memento for us to give Bob. We knew there were going to be a lot of objet d'art, perhaps, or things that were a formal occasion, and we thought, well, let's do something simple. Why, is he going to have a lot of time, a lot of leisure time? Well, maybe not, but it seems to me he may be able to indulge himself in a little travel. So how about a gift certificate for luggage? That got a lot of enthusiasm, and we were about to pass a resolution on that fact until someone raised the fact that isn't that a little like saying, hey, Bob, get out of town? But Bob, happily, the motion carried by 1 vote, and we have a gift certificate for some luggage, which you can pick out, and we hope it includes a book bag, because you may have some time to read, too. Good luck.
Thank you, Scott. Our next speaker is Linda DeBoe Melting. Ms. DeBoe is president of the Minnesota Library Association.
Well, I feel privileged to speak on behalf of the Minnesota Library Association on this occasion to honor you, Robert Rohlf. I know that I carry with me the admiration and appreciation of the members of the association when I say that your service to libraries and to the people of Minnesota as expressed through your activities in MLA, are a great source of pride for us. The association has honored you by presenting you with the Librarian of the Year Award in 1966, the President's Award in 1983, and the Minnesota Library Association Centennial Medal in 1992. When you were presented with the Centennial Medal, your many contributions to MLA were listed. Some of these included service as MLA President, Chair of the Legislative Committee when the first Minnesota State Aid to Libraries bill passed, and Chair of the Long Range Planning Committee, which developed the framework for the development of multi-type library systems in Minnesota. But there's more, however. One phrase in particular stays with me from that occasion, and it seems very appropriate to repeat it tonight. And that was, he has always inspired, encouraged, and supported staff members, trustees, and colleagues to get involved in library issues and to participate in the Minnesota Library Association. Tonight I want to thank you for your multitude of contributions to MLA and to all of those who have been strengthened by your presence. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. DeBone. Our next speaker, another gentleman who is very, very active in Minnesota Library, is Mr. Bill Asp. Mr. Asp is Director of the Office of Library Development and Services, and Bill has been Director of the Statewide Library Development and Services Office since 1975. He has known Bob Rohlf since 1966, and over the years the two have worked very close and on numerous library committees and issues. Most recently, they have been co-workers as Bob Rohlf served a 6-year term in the Library Development Services Statewide Library Advisory Council. Mr. Rohlf is the immediate past president of the council. Mr. Asp.
Thank you, Milt. It's always a great honor to represent the state of Minnesota, but particularly tonight when I have that honor for a dear friend of mine, Bob Rohlf. There are a lot of stories I could tell about Bob, but there are just two I'm going to tell that are very brief. The first one is that a lot of us in this room owe our jobs to Bob Rohlf in one way or another. As Linda pointed out, he was the chair of the Minnesota Library Association Legislation Committee when the legislature passed the first state aid for public library development in 1957. And that appropriation, which I think Bob told me might have been about $100,000 at the beginning, is now almost $8 million. And I think that typifies not only the vision that Bob has had for the appropriateness of a state role in state funding for public library service, but also his continuing vision that what strengthens one library in Minnesota strengthens all libraries in Minnesota. And so I certainly want to take this occasion to thank him for that vision and that leadership that goes back so many years. And as I look around and see some people here who work in libraries that get significant amounts of state aid, I know that some of their salaries are coming from that $8 million. So people owe you, Bob, a lot for that work. And I owe Bob to a great extent for my job too, because as Milt indicated, I've known Bob since 1966 and kept in touch with him over the years. And in 1975, when the vacancy was occurring at the Office of Library Development Services, Bob was one of the key people I know who not only encouraged me to apply, but I suspect he did some behind-the-scenes lobbying as well, and he's never fessed up to that. And I don't know that I ever want to know what he did, but I'm grateful for what he's done for me in that capacity and support of the State Library Agency and the work of the State Library Agency. So representing the state, I do have another honor here, and Bob, if you could come forward again. This has somewhat fewer whereases than Milt's. Whereas Robert H. Rohlf has devoted more than 43 years to providing excellent library service to the citizens of Minnesota and indeed to the citizens of the entire country, and will retire as Hennepin County Library Director January 28, 1994. And whereas throughout his career he has been actively involved in both state and national professional organizations, including serving as president of the Minnesota Library Association, serving 4 terms on the Council of the American Library Association, and serving as president of the Public Library Association. And whereas the Minnesota Library Association has honored Robert Rohlf as one of the 4 outstanding contributors to the library profession in the state, and whereas his peers nationwide selected him as one of the 10 most outstanding library directors in the country who, quote, truly made a difference in the profession. And whereas he is widely recognized as an expert on library building and planning, known for creating extremely functional as well as aesthetically pleasing libraries, and recognized by his appointment in 1992 as the United States representative on the 15-member UNESCO International Executive Committee for construction of the $115 million Bibliotheca Alexandrina in Egypt. And whereas during his career of almost 25 years as Hennepin County Library Director, he guided the library system to being one of the finest in the country, with a use rate approximately twice the national average, and with a public service orientation that other library systems admire and try to emulate. And whereas as Hennepin County Library Director, he oversaw dramatic growth of library use, from 2.3 million annual circulation to more than 9 million annual circulation, and was responsible for the planning and construction of 15 new public library buildings. Now therefore, I, Arnie H. Carlson, Governor of the State of Minnesota, do hereby proclaim Friday, January 28, 1994, to be Robert H. Rohlf Day in Minnesota. This is signed both by Governor Carlson and Attorney General Joan Groh. Secretary of State Joan Groh.
Thank you, Bill. The next speaker we have is Mr. Mark Andrew. Mr. Andrew is the chair of the Hennepin County Board of Commissioners. Mark, whose district includes southwest Minneapolis and St. Louis Park, has been a Hennepin County Commissioner for the past 11 years. He currently is serving as chair of the county board for the 2nd consecutive years and for the 3rd time since 1987. Throughout his career, Mark has been a progressive leader on issues of poverty, the environment, job creation, and government innovation. He has also been a friend to and advocate for libraries. Mr. Andrews.
Thank you very much, Milt. It is a real honor to be here, Bob. And I want to tell you just what the county board thinks of you. The county board thinks enough of you to have at least 5 of us here after 2 grueling days in retreat with Mr. Borey. We just ended a 2-day strategic planning retreat at 5 o'clock tonight, and people, our board members, fought the elements to get here just so we could see to it that you had an appropriate send-off from the county board. And I'm going to ask our current county board members if they would do me the honor of joining me up here, and I'll ask each of you to make a very brief comment. So come on up. Come on down. Oh, there's Emily Ann. We have at least 6 here. Let's go by district number so I don't get in the hot water with anybody.
We always have to go by district number. That's I will be brief because with county board members, a little may be good, but more isn't necessarily better. So we did come right from retreat, and I came right from retreat. These guys bailed out and went home and changed clothes, which is kind of fitting, Bob, because on our first meeting, I was underdressed too, and it was after when Commissioner-elect Staples and I came and got a briefing from you, and I had come right from the workhouse. So it was, and from that point on, it has been a pleasure to work for you. You were very forthcoming with information and helping us get through some difficult debate. We're going to miss you. I'm going to miss you. And one of the reasons is you're such a snappy dresser. You're the only guy that can keep Mark Andrew humble. So good luck, Bob.
Well, I don't know if I can beat that, but I just want to thank Bob for his really superior and wonderful service to the citizens of Hennepin County. And your druthers are probably to be in the consulting business in the library world, But personally, I always thought you were going to go to Hollywood and be a movie star. So thank you very much for all your wonderful work, and enjoy your semi-retirement.
We're skipping three. Mike, I didn't actually go home. I had my suit upstairs. I planned ahead, but I didn't bring any socks except those. I come from a little town that had a Carnegie Library on Center Street, and I used it very regularly. Everyone in my family did, and so I've been a great admirer and user of libraries over the years, and I know what you've done for this county, Bob, and I just want to join in thanking you, and I know you're going to be doing that for other places around the country and around the world. I want to say thanks.
Bob, I've had the opportunity to work with you the 16 years that I've been on the board, and earlier I asked Bob, come on, Bob, now be honest and candid and serious. How did you really like working for Hennepin County, being library director? And he said, well, I thoroughly, entirely enjoyed 99% of the time. And I figured that's pretty good. He only had to spend 1% of his time before the county board. I want to thank you also. My family and I are very, very heavy users of the library system. I do want to assure everybody that I usually do get my materials in on time, that we will have another Amnesty Days in about 25 years. I want to thank you, Bob, for you're a world-class professional, and you have helped build a world-class library system. Thank you.
Well, Bob, it's with real sorrow that I say sort of adios tonight, but I've worked with Bob for several years. I served on the Hennepin County Library Board for almost 4 years at one stage in my career. Worked with Bob when he was building some of these libraries that we've already talked about tonight, and he did a superb job as we were citing libraries. He was wonderful about really understanding what the needs of the population and the users of the libraries were, and every single, I think, area in the library came under his scrutiny, and it's been a spectacular success. I think those of us who have been involved in literacy and involved in helping young people to appreciate books and helping parents to know that it really does make a difference that they read to their children, all know how much we owe to you. So but we're going to continue working with you. I've already got a pact with Bob that he's going to keep advising and keep us aware of the needs. But it's been delightful working with you, and we'll continue to do it. Thanks.
And Bob, I see at least two other former county board members here tonight, Tom Olson, John Darris. I'm going to ask these two to come on up front because we're going to have our public affairs staff shoot a snapshot, not because this would be for a memento for Bob, but because having a picture with Bob will be a memento for us. So Big John, come on down here, please. Tom Olson. And I'm going to read the resolution. The following resolution was offered by Commissioners Opat, Hillary, McLaughlin, Johnson, Keefe, Staples, and Andrew, whereas Robert H. Rohlf has worked for the Hennepin County Library continuously since September 1st, 1969, serving as library director, and has been instrumental in setting the standard of excellence for which Hennepin County Library is known nationwide, with a use rate about twice the national average. And whereas throughout his career, Mr. Rohlf has represented the library in the county with distinction on numerous local, state, and national organizations, and as library director has guided the dramatic growth in library use from 2.3 million annual circulation to more than 9 million annual circulation, and has been responsible for the planning and construction of 15 new county libraries. And whereas Mr. Rohlf has always worked diligently and effectively to provide full, free, and equal access to library services for all citizens, and Minnesota Governor Arnie Carlson, State of Minnesota, has proclaimed Friday, January 28, 1994 as Robert H. Rohlf Day, be it resolved that the Hennepin County Board of Commissioners hereby extends its highest regard and appreciation to Robert H. Rohlf for his many years of service to Hennepin County, and extends the commendation and gratitude of the citizens of Hennepin County for his impressive efforts and many contributions to the library and the citizens it serves. Bob, God bless you, and thank you. And I'm going to do a first here. I'm going to see if we can get a unanimous vote of all these county board members. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The silence is deafening, isn't it? Bob, thank you very much. Come on up. You guys, yeah, let's get everybody down here. John and Tom, you guys are in front with Bob, and the rest of us will stand behind you. Yeah, you may not want. You're in the front. Yeah, let's get Darius and Tyson up front. Don't worry, you're safe. All right. Don't worry, guys, you're safe. You're out of office.
What can they possibly do at this point?
No, no mic.
Yeah. How you doing? Yeah. Somebody said, what would you like to do your next job? 25 more whereas it can be done, but I just, that's why I can't stand another
Thank you all. That was really something to see this. Well, we try to find some more speakers, Bob, but nobody else had anything nice to say about you. So if you can't, you can come up here and defend yourself. Mr. Bob Rohlf.
I'm never at a loss for words, he said. It's hard to say thank you to so many people. I tried to do that to the staff a couple of weeks ago. I tried to do that to the library board at my last meeting with them yesterday, which I think the president of the board reminded me was my 250th library board meeting. I think that, as I've said when I got the Centennial Medal, the person that I owe the most to, of course, is my wife, Joan, who stuck with me as I moved around the country, and stuck with me as the family when I was running off to board meetings and committee meetings and city council meetings and putting in some really weird hours and times in raising our 5 children, who are remarkable children. And I'd like to have my 5 children stand. In order of appearance, as I used to put it, my daughter Kathy, my daughter Cindy, my son Bill, our son John, and our son David. We had a lot of odd times in our family, and we had some great times, and they stuck with me through all of this. Because I have put in some really weird hours and done some very weird things, and they've been through me with all of this. I have said that whatever success the library has had while I have been the director is due to not me, it's due to the library staff, which is the one that does all the work. And it's due to the taxpayers who have paid for it. So whatever we've done, I've done with the library staff and with your money. And we have to remember that. And I've only been the instrument to try to make it all work together. I'm extremely proud of the library. I'm extremely proud of the staff. I think the spirit there is just enormous. We've had a great library board, as Milt said, 38 different library board members. That's a lot of library board members when you think of it. And I'm very proud of the foundation, which I remember started with a couple of conversations, a luncheon with one person, plus myself, and then a luncheon with 3 people, and then a meeting in a building, a basement here in a bank building. And now there's a foundation board of over 20 very prominent citizens. I was at a meeting with them Tuesday morning,
or was it Wednesday morning? This week has been kind of a crowd. Thursday morning, yesterday morning, and a snowstorm. And this, if you remember Thursday morning, it was a mess. The traffic was a disaster. And there were 15 citizens from the foundation board at a special committee meeting at 7:30 and for breakfast, which consisted of rolls and coffee. Now, if that isn't something, I don't know what is. And none of those people were around or even thinking of a foundation even 5 years ago. So I'm very proud of that. So I thank the foundation people, the library board, the staff, the Hennepin County Commissioners, whose pressure on them for money and support is enormous. Everybody's got a need and everybody's got a want, and they have to deal with all of us all the time. And I know there have been times when they would have gladly thrown me out of the 24th floor, but I felt that they paid me to be the advocate, and that's what I was right to the end. And I will continue to be, so watch out, Mark, I'll still be around. So to all of you, and the staff particularly, and my family, I say thank you very much. I haven't done it, you have.
Thank you very much. As usual, he always knows how to say it and says it right. Thank you very much. That's our program, folks. Before we leave, I want to thank the library board members who put on the event tonight, saw about the food and drink and so on. I want to thank Linda Emberg and the staff for helping put this together, preparing my notes so I sounded good. And now there's still more food and more drink, and we hope you stay around for a while to visit and eat. And thank you all. God bless.